The 2019 budget, as you've heard and as you already know, is lower by 400 billion naira to that of this year. What is your own take on the budget so far, even for this year?
Well, I would like to comment on the budget just like it as what I. Let me say right away that I had instruction we are coming here to discuss the debt situation in Nigeria. So,
Okay.
but also we can talk about the budget.
Yeah, we're still going to that.
Yeah, basically, whether the budget is lower or higher, it shouldn't even be so much the challenge. But it should also be about the sustainability of the budget. You know, some of us are worried that the 2018 budget has not been implemented. More or less, we've been paying salaries. We just had an approval of the Eurobond to fund the capital component of the budget. So what's this talk about the 2019 budget when we have not even started implementing that of 2018? And there is nothing in sight to suggest that we'll learn our lessons and maybe round this up by the end of the year or first quarter of 2019 and then move ahead to start the 2019 budget, coupled with the fact that all the key members of the executive and legislature will be busy facing their campaigns and re-election struggle. In the next 1 week or two, INEC will pull off the flag for the campaigns to start. And that wouldn't abate until maybe end of February, when the elections will have had, and those who are declared winner will return and others will go to tribunal. So nothing concrete will really happen between now and maybe end of February, March. So that's the worry. So, but until we get the full details of seeing where is the money going to come from, how much are we borrowing, what is dedicated to capital expenditure, what is dedicated to recurrent expenditure, and any other reform package that comes with the budget, it may not be a little bit too early to start commenting because we just have the general figures without the details, and the devil is always in the details. That's where the challenge comes from.
The devil is always in the details. Now listen, there are critical challenges with budgeting in Nigeria, and these resonate more in the overall health sector, primary health care, maternal, newborn and child health subsectors. The first is that there is hardly a good link between laws, plans, policies and budget. And this was an article you wrote in the Premium Times.
Yeah, very well. There is what we call the policy plan budget continuum, which is necessary to build an empirical relationship and framework between your plans and policies and their reflection in the budget. Once your plans and policies are not reflected in your budget, the plans and policies are not worth more than the paper on which they were made, because it is the budget that provides the resource framework, the background that supports these policies for them to be implemented. So we have very beautiful things written in the health policy, written in our maternal and child health policy, written in all kinds of sub-health policies that we have. But when it comes to budget implementation, we forget them and then begin to put down resources to things that will not deliver on those health indicators which has made Nigeria notorious, on those health indicators which will improve the health of the average Nigerian, on those health indicators which will make us look civilized and polished. So at the end of the day, you have this disconnect. And once there's this disconnect, we've not been delivering quality healthcare to the Nigerian people. And it's not just in health alone, it's across board, it's in education, it's in housing, it's in the road sector, it's in electricity. Because if you can remember all the beautiful things we've had, 10,000 megawatts of electricity started during the Obasanjo days, and we are still not yet there, 10, 15 years after the initial dream was founded, which means that there's a disconnect somewhere between implementation and the policy frameworks you have that are just wasting on paper.
Wow. All right. You recently accused the executive and legislative arms of government of collusion in ensuring that the financial year of the budget commences very late and ends in June, between 2016 and 2018.
Yeah, very well. I did not accuse them. I'm just merely stating the facts, because there's a difference between you are alleging something that is difficult to see. I'm simply saying it, what everybody knows. And I've just told you that they claim to be ready to present the 2019 budget. At a time, the implementation of the 2018 budget has hardly commenced. They are simply paying salaries. It was within this week that the Senate and the House of Reps, or even yesterday that the House of Reps approved the borrowing plan. And that borrowing plan for about 2.something million euros is to fund the 2018 budget. You just got an approval in late October. It's not like the money is there waiting for you. You have to do a roadshow, talk to investors, float the bond, appoint investment advisors, and at the end of the day, maybe between December, January, or February, people will subscribe to it. You are not too sure whether even they will fully subscribe to it. Assuming they fully subscribe to it, which means you are going to offer them a very big interest rate return, and then the money will take some time to come. So the earliest this money that will fund the capital component of the 2018 budget comes could possibly be about February, March. And so when do you implement, and when does the new budget year really start? And what I had said is that the legislature claims that they have a right to say define the Nigerian budget year, which is true because the budget year is defined under law. So the legislature can always amend the law. But the practice where in 2015, the new budget year started in April, in 2016 it starts in May, 2017 it starts in June. I said this is simply abuse of legislative powers and recklessness and impunity on the part of the executive. What I had expected is that if they want to redefine the budget year to start from June to May, start in June, end in May, start again in June, they should feel free to do so. It's not that the budget year will be oscillating and moving year after year, so it is no longer certain. So it's as the spirit moves the executive and the legislature. Budget year 2015, a different set of calendar months. Budget year 2016, another set of calendar months, 2017, 2018. That cannot allow for proper planning. No investor would like to come into that system where there's no certainty. Is as long as the spirit moves whoever is in charge, and then that's not how you get a country governed by the rule of law. Because in fiscal governance, in the management of the budget is regulated by law, and the law should be supreme. And once you remove that certainty, the radiance and the majesty of the rule of law in fiscal governance, you have an aberration. You have the kind of economy we are running, which is almost directionless. Directionless, yes. Because as soon as you descend into the debt issue, then you see it's directionless. It's like flow sum. It's like flow sum. Nobody's in charge.
Let's go into the debt issue. There's a debt burden that is close to 80 billion naira as we speak right now. Why do you think we need to continue borrowing when we have several streams of income?
I think we should even get the picture of where we are, where we're coming from, and where we are currently before we begin to talk of other streams of income.
Okay.
I deliberately did something when I was coming here. I went to the website of the Debt Management Office and printed out Nigeria's total debts as at 30th June 2015, which was when the former administration left, a month after they left.
Yeah.
And then I printed out the latest one, which is Nigeria's public debt, as at 30th June 2018. As at 30th June 2015, our total debt was 12.118 trillion. 12.118 trillion.
In 2015?
As at June 2015. 12.118 when the former government left.
Trillion
naira. Now, as at June 2018, which is like how many months ago? We have had like July, August, September, and October. So the debt must have also increased because they are procuring it on a daily basis.
Okay.
Our total debt as at June is 22.379 trillion. 22.379. Now, if you add the euro bond that has been approved to this 22.379, you will be getting roughly about 25 trillion naira. Now, the implication is that between June 2015 and June and this year, just a 3-year gap or three and some months gap, we have doubled from 12.1 to about 25. 12 times 2 is what? 24. So in 3 years we have times multiplied our debts by 2, and we are doing it in a directionless manner. We are doing it in a senseless and cruel manner because we are burdening the incoming generation. A wise father leaves his children expecting when he dies that they gather to read a will. And the will is not a debt that they should pay with their reckless father incurred. The will is the sweat of a father. All the properties he's made, all the goodwill he had, transferring to his sons to say, take this house, take this property, take this company, take this car. When you read a will and you are transferring liability to your children, they're entitled to curse you. And that's what this present generation of Nigerians and leaders are trying to do. So that's why I say it's senseless from 12 to 25 within a space of 3.5 years. Now ask me, what are we doing? If you ask them, they tell you about our debt to GDP that is lower than what countries of our size, of our population, of our income are doing. But the important thing is not debt to GDP, it's debt to revenue. From the 2017 budget implementation report, what came out strongly is that for every 1 naira made by Nigeria, we are using about 68 kobo to pay back debts. For every 1 naira we make, as at 2017, we use 68 kobo. So we had only 32 kobo remaining to do whatever we want to do payment of salaries, to do capital projects, to do everything. Now, in 2017 as well, we borrowed money to finish doing our recurrent expenditure. We borrowed money to, all the money we realized was not enough to pay salaries and do other recurrent expenditure. We borrowed about 100 and something billion to finish doing recurrent expenditure, and we also borrowed to refinance our debt. Now, this was before this current approval, so you can bet that in 2019 we could possibly be doing 70 something kobo payback per naira per 100 kobo. 70 something naira, 70 something kobo per every 100 kobo.
Yeah,
so it is senseless.
Why do we borrow?
We are borrowing because we say we don't have the resources to fund our budget. And why we are borrowing is the intellectual laziness, is the limited mental capacity of those who call themselves leaders. We have a situation where our third to 10th 11 are insisting on occupying a position only meant for the best, for the first 11. You don't enter governance, you don't become economic minister, you don't become budget minister, you don't become president if you don't understand the big picture, if you don't know how to turn the fortunes of the country around. It's not about shouting slogans or sitting down on a desk and signing executive orders or doing things. If you don't get it, you don't get it. We are borrowing because we are not using our head. God bless Nigeria with crude oil. God bless Nigeria with gas. For the past 10-15 years, we have refused to build new refineries. The old refineries are not functioning. You keep investing money in turning them around. They never get turned around. They only get turned around the pockets of those who are supposed to turn it around. And they steal the money and get out of sight. The refineries are too old. Maybe you need to build new ones. What does it cost to build a new refinery? You are not building. You use about $8 to $10 billion every year to import refined petroleum. So it keeps a pressure on your foreign exchange. So any little money you earn from sale of crude oil, you counterbalance it with importing refined petroleum. As you're importing refined petroleum, you are exporting jobs. You are putting jobs in those refineries, those countries there. You are creating jobs. While millions of your young men at home are jobless. You are also creating taxes because those companies, the more profit they make, they pay taxes to their to their home government, Britain, America, Asia, wherever, not Nigeria. You are as well putting pressure on the naira because you have limited resources and you are simply importing virtually everything. So your naira keeps getting depreciated. So that's why I'm saying you have intellectual Lilliputians occupying places where thoroughly bred professionals should be. So we are borrowing without a plan. 2 days ago or yesterday, I read in the papers, virtually all the papers, Amechi said our trains are not running more than 90 kilometers per hour, that they're supposed to run about 100 to be speed trains. Now what is happening? That those trains, because they don't want to kill cows that are on the roads, okay, on the rail tracks, and that they're even, the most important part of it is that they are subsidizing, that they're spending about 45 million naira a month on each of those trains, and they're getting less than 10 million naira in return. Now, this is, so where are we going to get the money to pay back the Chinese? If common sense is not common, you are looking at the elections, you are not looking at the big picture. Nothing you are looking at. You are investing 45 billion to run railways, which you borrowed money to build, and you are getting back 90 million a month. Now, where will you get the money to pay back? We thought that you are going to liberalize the economy. We are going to energize those latent potentials we have so that they become revenue yielding, because you have an oil and gas sector that is contributing so much. Yes, it's less than 10% of the GDP. The other 90% of the GDP is deadwood. What are you doing to energize them to become sources of revenue? What are you doing to energize them to become sources of employment? Because this is the visionlessness that we are seeing. Absolutely nothing that is here, because we have so much going for us in terms of population. We've got so much going for us in terms of resources. And all we need to do is the vision with a missionary leader who has to carry everybody along in a charismatic manner, begin to bring out the energies of the Nigerian people, begin to do aggressive domestic resource mobilization, because no country survives on borrowing, on importing toothpicks, on doing everything. You need to challenge Nigerians, and you see the resources within. Even things like the cows that are causing problems all around are resources God has blessed us with, that we should begin to see to create jobs, to create cattle ranches where we can begin to produce tons and tons of raw fresh milk every day, which we will package. First of all, feed our young men and women and our children and the old, and then begin to export. We could develop a big meat, dairy, hides and skin industry that could yield us millions and millions of dollars every year, that they happen in some of these countries in Europe and America and in Asia. That's one. So let's, even if you begin to tell, if I begin to talk about the big picture, I feel like I'm going to get into a trance for the next 1 hour. I will not stop, because there are provisions for us to raise resources. But we have dollars sitting in the seat of power. I have no apology. Some people tell me I'm rude. I am insisting, if you don't know what to do, don't just occupy space. Simply don't occupy space, because you've not got it, you've not got it. Or you hid the talents that God gave to you simply because you want to be greedy to steal oil money. Since you don't know, you get out. Nigeria is beyond this present crop of leadership. I'm not sorry, not just the present leadership. With the leadership we've had, let's say since 1999, we are beyond. We are supposed, it's like an 8-cylinder engine, a very huge SUV, and all that it is firing on is only one cylinder. It has 8 plugs. It's only using one plug to work. That's the way we are working in Nigeria. We are in serious trouble. And so that's why we have to make a concrete choice about who should lead us come 2019. Men of ideas, men of vision and mission, men who sleep, wake up and think and drink and eat development. If you don't do that, we are in trouble. Now, the big picture I was talking about is that we can raise resources to run our economy instead of this going cap in hand, which are beyond this. For instance, in the health sector, health insurance should be made compulsory. To raise a big pool of funds for the health sector is not government alone, because government doesn't have the resources. If before you put your car on the road, a Tokumbo car that has been driven for the past 15-20 years in Europe, and they have thrown it off the road because it's causing so much pollution, and one Nigerian quickly rushes, a big man, then posts it and brings it, and you go and pay $1 million or $2 million to get it. You can't put it on the road without, even if it is third-party insurance. Imagine what happens if over 100 million Nigerians compulsorily pay some token every year for health insurance, and it is properly managed, even if it's centralized or broken up into states. You will have hundreds of billions to be able to take care of those who cannot afford, because government will be...
Like what the pensions reform?
Yes. No, pensions reform is not even working well. So there are places where you have that huge fund coming in for health insurance. Then you talk about universal health insurance, and you wouldn't have this system where our best of doctors are running out of the country. The ratio that the health WHO recommends, I think they say is about 1 to 600 doctors, or 1 to less than that. In Nigeria, we over 1 to 6,000 doctors. One doctor is attending to over 6,000 persons, and our doctors are living in droves. You come to the road sector. We've had the road fund bill, road governance bill, before the National Assembly for close to 10 years. Nothing is happening. They are playing politics. Obasanjo caused the mayhem. He knocked down the toll gates. Now, we don't have money to repair our roads. Our roads are perpetually under construction. What we show is Abuja-Lokoja road. Since 2016, it's been there. If we have a road fund, you can set up toll gates. In some other countries, you have like 5% tax surcharge on every liter of fuel sold, and the money is properly accounted for. And some other means of getting private investors to come into the road sector. So at the end of the day, if you need 500 billion a year to maintain your roads or to keep them in good condition, if government brings 250 can come from another source. So even the electricity, we are complaining, we've been telling stories about electricity like as if to say we are preparing. It didn't take the Americans this long to go to the moon. When Yuri Gagarin went to space in 1957, he was Russian, and the Americans said, God, what's happening here? The Russians are beating us to space. Around 60, John F. Kennedy told Americans we are no longer going to space. Okay? The Russians have been there. So if we simply go to space, that means we are just doing what they've already done. America must land somebody where? In the moon. And by 1969, they achieved that. So I'm saying the time it took Americans to go to where nobody has ever dreamt of going is less than just fixing electricity that everybody knows what to do. So the issue is that we haven't put round pegs in round holes and giving them the resources to work. You pack 3 big ministries into one, power, works, and housing, and hand it over to a lawyer who read the Webster versus Cecil law we read, cram things in school. I'm a lawyer, but he's not qualified to be on that seat. I'm sorry. And this is a seat that determines the quality of life of all Nigerians. Roads, very important, works, housing, which is the biggest investment you can make for most people apart from educating their children. The house you build is usually your biggest asset, bigger than your car, bigger than everything, except maybe the money you invested in your children. Works, house, and housing, power and housing packed into somebody. And all he's doing is issuing press releases. We've done more than the PDP government combined 10 years together. Where is the electricity? Where is the power? Is it about talking what doesn't make sense? Absolutely no sense. The electricity sector can be properly reformed. You have handed over to the discos. You've handed over to them. They don't have the capacity, they don't have the resources to bring to bear. If they don't have the resources to bring to bear, you must invite more stakeholders, more investors. You can't have exclusivity. And if it means reviewing the tariffs in a reasonable manner, you must have to bite the bullet. Everything is not about politics. If we need to pay a little extra, but there must be assurance that the little extra must yield that productivity. Okay, that extra megawatts of energy. If we are doing, say, 3 hours of energy today, and you assure us that in 6 months to 1 year, we are going to be getting 12 to 14 hours, pay a little extra, everybody will agree. But it is not when people are paying, and yet nothing is changing. And all you do is sloganeering. From beginning for the past 3.5 years, slogan upon slogan, no new megawatt of energy, lies upon lies. That's not how to run an administration. The Ministry of Works, Power and Housing must be broken up. The word I'm using is must. If we want to make progress, it is not subject to anybody simply thinking he can play politics. Must be broken up and be manned by 3 competent ministers who dream day, night about the sector, coming up with innovative ideas, borrowing ideas where possible, and domesticating them. For instance, look at what happened, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. That was concession to boycott.
Yeah.
The Federal Ministry of Works then placed all obstacles on the way of boycotting. When they got the engineering and technical designs ready, which should have been approved within a space of 2-3 months, they sat on it for over 1 year too. They didn't approve. And he needed that approval and that agreement with federal government to go outside Nigeria to foreign banks to borrow. To development banks where you can get loans at 34-5%, less than that. Because if you go to a Nigerian bank, they'll ask you to bring 20-something%, which means you cannot do the project and make a profit. They sat on it for 2 years, as if to say that wasn't enough. Lagos and Ogun State, they were in no position there. We say, okay, we are under the Land Use Act, the land belongs to us. When you finish with your federal government, come and we there here, we wait till you come and see us. Before you knew it, something he was trying to do at the other end of Ibadan side, the governor then demolished it. First thing with all kinds of obstacles. And before you could say Jack, they took it away from him. The same persons who were frustrating him. And the project he wanted to do for about 80-90 billion, the Jonathan government quickly re-awarded it. It was supposed to be 6 or 8 lanes with all kinds of facilities in the drawing that was waiting approval. They took it away and now withdrew, made the design, took just some part of the design. It was no longer going to be as many lanes as possible with the facilities it was designing, overhead bridges, and gave it to Julius Berg and RCC or one other company to construct for double the price, for about 180. I said I'm going to do 20 things at 80 to 90 billion. Concession me, just give me the approval, give me the papers, let me go and look for money and do. Government now said I was wasting time, took it away from me and reduced part of the components of that project and re-awarded it at 180. We're still on it up to today. And even an adulterous generation are looking for a sign. There's no more sign. There's no more sign to be given. The age has closed. The time has closed. When wicked men are running the streets, lying to us, the first government was just mischievous. And then we said, this one said it's going to be our Messiah. Absolutely no ideas on what to do. It's still the same old story, even digging deeper into the mischief. So if we don't take time, we are a people about to be forgotten in time and space. The first colonization was physical. The second colonization, which is happening now, is not physical. And we are going to become much more than slaves, because the way we are going, we don't have a future. You are borrowing, you cannot repay. At some point, the creditors will stop giving you the money and call in their debts. So if you are using 68 kobo out of every 100 kobo to pay them, and you're still borrowing, and in the 2019 stuff that they are going to put before the National Assembly, they're going to borrow more. So you don't have any idea, just to borrow. When you finish borrowing, what happens? Who will pay back? It's not at the federal level alone. Look at what the accused Fayosha of doing. 120 billion naira racked up in debt. For a state where you are owing workers 6, 7, 8 months salary, you can't pay workers.